Welcome to Making Pondo and Talking Pondo. Talking Pondo is a podcast where we pick out 2 movies each week and talk about them in detail. Making Pondo is a podcast where we talk to people we've made films with and we discuss all their experiences on set.
All right, here we are, Marty. First episode.
Yeah, hello.
Inaugural episode. Talking Pondo.
Talking Pondo here with Marty and Clif. I'm Marty.
I'm Clif. And this is the show where we force each other to watch different movies and then we talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this episode we kind of took it easy on each other to start with.
Oh, yeah. Didn't want to jump into the fire just yet. Yeah.
Threw each other a couple of easy softballs. So I picked for you Night of the Comet, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And my pick was The Last Starfighter. So.
Mm-hmm. Which is one. I mean, both are 2 of my favorite movies from the '80s. So
Mm-hmm.
that was easy. It was an easy one.
It is weird because they do share several things in common, but you know what? The thing that I and this might happen every week. You know, I might find some kind of overlapping theme. You know.
Oh, I'm betting it will. Knowing you, I'm betting it will.
With the strange things we could pair with each other, but both movies have that character who's obsessed with the video game.
Mm-hmm.
All right, because Night of the Comet, she's so irritated that somebody's taken her spot on the Tempest game, the game that I have an obsession with myself. I loved that game. So I remember seeing that movie the first time and being like, oh yeah, I love that fucking game. But then, of course, the whole plot of The Last Starfighter is he's, you know.
Well, and you get the opposite of it in Last Starfighter, which is, when can I play that fucking game? And the answer is never.
Yeah, the game that never was.
I mean, I think this is Last Starfighter is 84. If I'm 84. So I'm 11, and video games are everything at that point, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was dying to play that thing, and I was sure it would come out. I mean, they made one for Tron.
Yeah.
Surely they'd make one for Last Starfighter. It looked awesome.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was the great video game crash, is my guess, burying all those ET cartridges.
I read that. What I read is that Atari created those Star Wars consoles, the Star Wars arcade games. You remember the one where you did the Death Star run and you shot the TIE fighters? So they were going to do a vector-based graphics game of Last Starfighter, and they were about 3/4 of the way through it, and they just terminated the project, and threw it away.
Terrible.
So, yeah, that's a loss, America. You lost out there. We lost out.
Well, the thing that I noticed right before we got on that I wasn't sure, and of course, obviously, most of the audience listening, this doesn't necessarily pertain to them, but I didn't know until just now, because I don't know a whole bunch of Trek stuff, but Robert Beltran is a Star Trek Voyager guy?
Yeah, he's Chakotay, I think is his name.
I think he's been at a con that I went to before.
Oh, man.
I think he was at Phoenix one year. I could be wrong, but I mean, if he's Star Trek Voyager, then that gives the chance of him showing up at a convention even more. We're hoping, since Night of the Comet's hitting one of its anniversaries next year, it's going to be turn 39, right? Because it's 1985. That we were wondering, well, who from the cast could possibly show up at a convention? And we were thinking, oh yeah, and I thought, oh yeah, possibility, but I didn't know. It's like, oh, if you're Star Trek, well, you're born to do conventions at that point. So
right, that's half the bonus of being on Star Trek is.
And another weird thing that will come up from time to time is this sort of Kevin Bacon game where people are in other movies with other movies, because just the nature of the discussion. And a movie that I've been to enough conventions that I've met like a dozen people from is The Devil's Rejects. And so I'm sitting there watching Night of the Comet again for the first time in, probably 15 years or so. Mm-hmm. And I'm realizing, oh, both Jeffrey Lewis and Mary Warrenoff are in this. They're both in The Devil's Rejects. So,
well, and Jeffrey Lewis, he did a lot. I mean, he's a character actor from way back. He was in all those Any Which Way But Loose movies with Clint Eastwood, with the orangutan monkey.
It took me a while to place him in the movie and a couple of scenes in because it'd been so long I forgot about the second part of the movie. As a kid, I gravitated to the first like 20 minutes of that movie. And then being like 10, 11, I would always kind of still watch it, but it was on the TV and I'm off doing other shit and stuff. And so it was like, I forgot about the people show up in the
Yeah.
helicopter. And so I'm like
Yep.
getting invested like I hadn't seen it before. So that was kind of neat for
Ah,
having
nice.
forgot the what was going to happen. And then of course it gets to the end and I'm like, oh, I remember all this now. Okay, yeah, but it took me a minute. It took me a hot minute to recognize Jeffrey Lewis as one of the
Yeah.
scientists or whoever they were. Yeah.
Well, and that plot line kind of, even remember as a kid thinking, wow, that kind of comes out of nowhere. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's really no. You're watching this movie about two girls who have survived some sort of apocalypse, comet apocalypse, and then suddenly you cut away to some bunker somewhere, and you're like, what is this, and what's going on?
Yeah, it's like a
Um,
different movie starts up almost.
yeah,
Oh, they've
yeah.
shifted the narrative to another character
Hmm.
that's not one of the two girls, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then it becomes obvious they're gonna run these two rails right next to each other and then crash them into each other.
Mhm. And it works because
Yeah,
it needed to do something. And then when you put it in the context of back then, 1985, well, it's like, well, this is actually kind of novel for the time. And I remember it being kind of exciting. Of course, you can look at a 40-year-old movie now and be like, oh, yeah, they don't do them like that anymore. But at the time, for the low budget movie that it was, yeah, I was
yeah,
like, yeah, I was getting that not so much nostalgia feel, but that movie is, and I can see why you like it so much because it's a genuine snapshot of the vibe of 1985. I look at that and it's like instant time machine. I remember exactly where I was at the old house, watching it on cable and
yes,
just
sir.
takes you
Yeah,
right back.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I'd say that about Last Starfighter.
That
Like
one too has the vibe.
that one has that vibe. It has that '84 vibe. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the kids in the truck and going to the lake, and you know, the rundown kind of mobile home, and but yet, the futuristic car looking type the '80s was where everything was kind of changing and starting to get
Mm-hmm.
futuristic, and Walkmans and all this. Oh my God, a Walkman,
Yeah.
that's amazing, and uh, so it feels very, very '80s too.
Mm-hmm.
That one um, kind of has the same problem, in my opinion, where
Yeah. Yeah.
they tack on this like story about the beta unit and the assassin, and I don't think you really, really need it. Like, I don't, I, I, I get it. You need to kind of give Catherine Mary Stewart something to do while she's on the
Mm-hmm.
planet, right, to help Alex. But and it really seems like that was the drive for that
Yeah.
movie, was to, um, and maybe we should just start at the beginning because we're kind of jumping into the middle, and anybody who hasn't seen these movies might not understand what we're talking about or the plots of them. Um, so yeah, so I'll back up.
Mm-hmm.
So the Last Starfighter '84 is about a kid who lives in a trailer park with his mom and his little brother, and he's got a girlfriend who also lives there, and he's trying to better himself. He's trying to go to a nice college instead of city college, so he can get out of the kind of the town that he's in and get away from the life and be better. And he has a plan with this girl, his girlfriend Maggie, um, to do that. So he finds out that's not going to happen, and he goes to play a video game that's in the trailer park that he happens to be pretty good at, and he ends up breaking the high score, and the entire trailer park community shows up to watch him break. Kind of like, I guess what this last level of Donkey Kong or something, right?
Well, yeah, we got a kill screen coming
We got a
up.
kill
That's what I
screen
was
coming up,
thinking.
yeah. Like, yeah, from King of Kong, exactly. So, and then he is kind of depressed because he's like, well, that was the big thing. Okay, what, I'm still not going to college or whatever. And this strange gentleman shows up and offers him, I guess, kind of what suckers him into getting into his car, and then before he knows it, he takes off into space, and
And a
he's
car
on his
that
way.
was a little DeLorean-esque before Back to the Future, I thought too.
Yeah, yeah. It's based on a DeLorean. Yeah, that
Oh,
car is based on a DeLorean. Yeah, and so Alex is whisked away to a another galaxy where he meets aliens and realizes that the game that he's playing called Starfighter is actually a test to find starfighter pilots across the galaxy and bring them to fight this war against Zur and the Kodan Armada, as the game says. And he gets there and, and he realizes he's basically been brought in. He's like cattle. He's been paid for. He watches the guy that brought him get paid, and he's put into a uniform and sat down and explained that he's about to go into battle and it's going to be victory or death. And he demands to go home immediately, like any sane person would. He's like, I'm not a starfighter pilot. I played a video game. So he goes home and what they dropped off a beta unit, which is an android that looks like him, to take his place so nobody would know he was gone. The beta unit's been causing him problems with his girlfriend and around the thing. So he finds the beta unit and he calls this guy back to come get the beta unit. Well, an assassin shows up to try and kill him and shoots the beta unit instead, if I'm not mistaken, and ends up shooting the guy that comes back to get him before they kill him. And he agrees to go back to this Last Starfighter place, right? And in the meantime, the base where all the Starfighters things has been bombarded and killed by that whole plot line with Zur and the Kodan Armada.
So we're getting our title.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going on and on and on, but so
that's summarizing.
Yeah. So Centauri, the guy who he's met, is flying him back, and he's wounded and dies. When the thing lands, the kid gets into the suit and and then meets his, I guess, like his next Merlin, right? Like he gets two Merlins, right? He gets Centauri, his first Merlin, who brings him to the new world, and then he gets Greb.
Yeah.
The next guy played by Dan O'Herlihy.
Mm-hmm.
And that guy, and that's his name, right? Greg. Right. Sorry, Greg.
Greg,
yeah. And so that's Dan O'Herlihy, and Greg kind of is like, oh, we'll get in the Starfighter. I'll run you through your novice training course. Here you go, and teaches him, how to the difference between the game and the reality of sitting in the chair of a Gunstar and all that type of stuff, which is the name of the ship. And then from there, big epic battle, basically. They defeat the Kodan Armada. They go out. It's a kind of a back and forth. At one point, he gives up. Of course, there's the hero always kind of has that moment of doubt, but he overcomes it, beats it, and then comes back to Earth to get Maggie, and they go off to live in the galaxy, being the last Starfighter. And of course, Centauri is revived due to special alien medicine. Yes.
So he is something like, I didn't get to rewatch the last half hour of it today. So it's like a spin trick, right, or something that he does at the end.
That's a good point. That's a good thing. So Greg, of course, has he's the navigator of the Gunstar. Mm-hmm. He's also the kind of the engineer and the mechanic. He's got a new.
It's like Top Gun.
It's a prototype. Yeah, it's like a prototype special weapon that only his Gunstar has. And the reason that his Gunstar wasn't blown up was because it was being fitted in a different hangar with this thing, and so it wasn't really at the base when the base was blown up. And so it's called Death Blossom, and it basically the idea is that it opens up all these panels on the ships. There's tons of missiles and some extra lasers, and then as all the enemy gets close, it does a giant spitting maneuver and shoots everything in a one shot salvo.
Because watching it again for also this one for the first time in quite a while, and like an old song that you haven't heard for years, it's like, oh yeah, all the beats are still there and it still hits, but that's a whole other conversation altogether. But watching it again, give me a second here. This is the beauty of editing. If I lose my train of thought for a half a second here. Okay, so we were talking about that. Oh yeah, so this movie came out in 1984.
Yeah.
And so we had Return of the Jedi the year before. And so I'm watching it now, and I'm sure even as a kid I saw this stuff. And it just seems so Star Wars influenced in so many ways, more so than some other movies. Like, we're going to pick up the mantle where Return of the Jedi left off, and we're going to try to do some new sci-fi thing. And there were some ships that I don't ever want to say that one thing influenced another. I'm just saying somebody got there first. Like, I was seeing like these oddly triangular, almost Naboo type ships landing, and it's like, oh, we get that later in the spin trick. Remember, spinning's a good trick, and the
Yeah,
family.
spinning is a good trick. Yeah.
So it's,
Well,
it's
but spinning is a good trick comes years later, though.
yeah, yeah. So it's weird how that all kind of
Yeah,
they
that's
came from
interesting.
it, and then it pulls back from it again, or it just seems that way, anyways. The
Well, and this is also early in where with computer generated graphics. So,
yeah,
almost all of that, well, not almost all that flying stuff, all that space stuff is all computer generated.
hmm
All those ships are computer generated. And, other than Tron and maybe one or two other things, there just hadn't been a lot of that looked really
yeah,
good on the big screen. And that actually, that was very successful.
yeah. I remember seeing that at the theater. That was and it
Mhm.
looked good. And I
Yeah, it
remember
looked good.
as a kid, I forgave all the because you do as a kid sometimes all the weird subplots you were talking about, like. Oh, I enjoyed it. I liked all that stuff. I had the comic adaptations, so I'd
Yeah.
read the story over and over, and the
Yeah.
creature with its weird like look like something out of the cantina bar that's trying to shoot them at the
Yeah, the
trailer
hammer, the
park.
kind of the hammerhead looking, yeah,
Yeah,
with the
he
with the
was on the
wide
front of
eyes.
one of the issues, and so that character always seemed like iconic to the movie for me. Just one of those things. Like
Hmm.
if they'd made a toy out of it, I probably would have bought it at age 11 or something.
Same. Yeah. Well, and again, not, you know, jumping back on that, like that where was that arcade game? What a
Yeah.
terrible, what a huge marketing miss. I never saw any Last Starfighter toys either.
Oh yeah. It's just
There were none.
there's too many good movies in 1984. And this one came
Yeah.
out, and I remember it having a bit of an advertising campaign, but it did get swallowed up.
Yeah.
Back in the days, you could wait a couple of months and then go see the movie.
True.
And
True. True.
we did that, me and my dad, and it was not even at the dollar theaters yet, and it had been playing
Hmm.
all summer
Hmm.
because that's just how you
That's
could
how
get
it worked
around
back then.
to it.
Yeah.
Not like now where it's just gone, but
Well,
it's
and the film system was different. They didn't make as
that
many
way.
prints. They didn't make as many prints back then as they do
Mhm.
now. And prints would ship around from theater to theater. That's what
Mhm.
something being held over was all about.
Yeah.
They just held the print over because it was doing so much business. They're like, screw you,
hmm
sue me. I'm making way
Yeah.
too much money to let this print go. You're insane.
So it kind of became like a sleeper hit, I guess. And then I know once it hit
Well,
video,
once it hit cable,
yeah,
especially, it was very, and I think cable was the reason, like, cable for those type of movies was what DVD was to Kevin Smith and those
oh
type of
yeah,
guys, later in the 90s, was like this whole new avenue to be able to like market you could make Last Starfighter and say, well, it's not going to be Star Wars and have these massive magnificent effects, and it probably won't do that business, but it'll do well in the theater, and then it'll go to cable and just,
hmm
and then of course VHS.
and then you cut to years later on the Clerks animated series, and they do a Last Starfighter parody where
Oh,
Randall's
that's
good at that
hilarious.
video game, right? And they basically get sucked into the real life Temple of Doom.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. That's great.
ridiculous.
That's hilarious. But yeah, like it's so funny you say you hadn't seen Night of the Comet in years. I've watched that one once a year probably, but
hmm
Last
We,
Starfighter,
we
I'd
stuck
literally
with
seen it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd literally seen it Flicks Brew House on a one of their specials nights probably a month ago. So I'd
Mm.
just seen it on a really big screen. It was like, damn, and the theater was packed. It was it
hmm
was packed with people like me, a bunch of nerds in their 40s who wanted to rewatch a movie from their childhood. It was really good.
Now, another bizarre observation I made about The Last Starfighter is how with Halloween 3, they were like, we're going to make an anthology series now. We're going to have a different story every year. It's not going to be Michael Myers. Well,
Right,
I'm
right, right.
watching Last Starfighter. I'm thinking, well, this easily could have been Halloween 4. And why do I say this? Because it's directed by Nick Castle, who was Michael Myers, starring Lance Guest from Halloween 2, and Dan O'Harely, who was the bad guy in part 3. Which is so weird to see the guy from Silver Shamrock under this lizard makeup. But they
That's
must have all
hilarious.
known each other and wanted to work together again, I'm
Yeah,
guessing, and made the sci-fi thing. But I'm like, that
sure.
could have fit into the anthology. Yeah, that could have been. And some multiverse. Last Starfighter is Halloween 4.
But yeah, overall, I'd say, if we were using a 5-star rating system, I'd say that movie is probably a solid, for me, a solid 4.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
I think I don't know. Maybe the nostalgia is part of it, but I still think it's a movie that a kid that age would
Hmm.
watch and really get into. And I think it's a solid movie. It's also got my '80s girlfriend in it with Catherine
Hmm.
Mary Stewart. Like, you know, when I'd watch anything she was in at that age. She was like awesome.
Yeah, she's in
But
both of these movies. Yeah, strangely enough.
she's in Night of the Comet, yeah, which is I love her. She's great. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it holds up. Like I said, I
Hmm.
saw it on the big screen not long ago,
Hmm.
and it was still really good. It drags a bit with the back and forth from Earth to space, like when he demands to go home and the beta unit type of thing. But I think it kind of needs that to slow the plot down a little bit. Otherwise, it's just hey, I beat the video game. I'm going to space to kill everything. Yay, I win.
Well, makes me wonder if it's some sort of subconscious influence on us for a marijuanos where it's drive to Missy's house, now drive back, now drive back again, because that's kind of what they're doing to kill time,
Problematic.
you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Weird,
Just terrible.
weird.
Yeah. But I mean, other than that, I'd say it's like probably a solid four.
Oh yeah,
Like it's definitely one I'd watch over and over again. I do
I,
watch over and over again.
watching both of them again, I don't think there's anything in Night of the Comet that they wouldn't put in a movie now, but probably for Last Starfighter, the kid in his
You
Playboy
know,
collection might
I
be
was
the
I was
thing
kind of
that
I was kind of
we,
holding that one in my
yeah.
back pocket. Yeah.
Or I was like, oh yeah, that's you always watch these older movies and go, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the sign of
Yeah,
50 years ago.
watching a kid flip through his porn stack for a certain issue is a little like,
It's like, whoa, what happened here? We took a left turn.
where's June? Where's June? It's like, oh my god,
And just
kid,
minutes ago, he's
really?
watching them make out and going, oh, diarrhea, and it's like, well,
Yeah, exactly,
crazy kid.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
Make up your mind, kid. That's hilarious.
that was a little. That was the one, but that was the time. Also, strangely
Yeah,
enough,
but at the time, I thought it was
it was
hilarious
that laugh.
because
Yeah.
my dad was a mechanic, and in one part of his like he had like a garage with like a area for his tools and stuff, and he had a topless calendar there, and he'd like, don't look at that, cover it when I come out to the garage and stuff.
Wow.
But I guess that's why I thought it was funny. I don't know.
Well, the humor was different then, and now we
Yeah.
look at things
People,
differently.
yeah, well, I mean, society changes around stuff. That's why films are slices of the times that they're in,
Mhm.
right? Like if you go
Yeah.
watch a movie in the 40s and the 50s, it's very different, and people are very different. 60s
Oh,
and
of
70s,
course.
people are
Yeah.
different.
That's also why I'm in favor of
That's what art does, is it reflects society.
yeah, not going back. And I mean, obviously you're not going to change the original version, but I'm glad they've never gone back and redone the special effects in Last Starfighter or anything. It's been left alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way it's real time capsule that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a movie that's also from 2023. Not
Yeah,
to
you
go
make a
down
good
the
point.
Star Wars rabbit hole that who knows, maybe one day we might actually be like, yeah, just watch A New Hope this week, but you know
Maybe we'll
it's
see.
like
We'll
that,
see. That movie's in my blood. I'm not sure I need to watch it
Mhm.
again. Yeah.
And so it's refreshing to see in both of these movies their original effects. I mean, Starfighter more so, but Night of the Comet. Now that as filmmakers, we break things down even more minutia now, and I'm just looking at that one, going, "Yep, they just had a few locations, a smaller cast, and it probably made the low budget, of it doable
Yeah,
to
the
keep it
trickiest
that
part to
slim."
me is getting those empty city shots.
Yeah,
Once you
early
get that,
morning, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
once you get that stuff, I mean, I imagine that they probably even, got some permits from the city to maybe shut down a
yeah.
couple streets or block them off for a few hours. You catch that light at the right time, call it a day, and then you move to your locations and you start shooting your locations, and then you're pretty good at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to me, I would want to tackle all that stuff first, but that's yeah, I mean, no, I mean, I was about to say that's all second unit stuff, but thinking about it, it isn't all second unit. There's actors in that stuff, so
Yeah.
I would want to capture all that stuff first and get it out of the way and make sure I nabbed it, and then then go nice to a comfy location and just sit there and
Mm-hmm.
shoot, shoot, shoot.
And you've probably noticed it, but in one of the very first shots of the city, it's where it's supposed to be empty. Some motherfucker walks into the shot, man. You can see him, and I'm like, well, maybe he's a zombie. Yeah, that's it.
Or
You know,
that's
but I'm
it.
just
Yeah.
going, oh, and the pain of
Yeah.
extras wandering in and staring at the camera and remembering
Yeah.
all of that, and just, oh yeah.
Hmm. Well, and part of me makes me wonder, like, was that, if you went to the theater, would that have been matted out via the projector? You know,
Hmm.
to where, because you're getting a little bit
It
more
was on the
of an,
edge.
yeah,
Mhm.
you getting a bit of an overscan on the video, right? And
Yeah.
like when you go to a theater, you get that edge kind of goes away due to the matte plate. So
So we're seeing beyond the safety.
I think maybe just a little bit, yeah, maybe possibly just a little bit beyond the safety. I could be wrong about that. Maybe it's just always been there.
It was interesting because we have that 1080p copy of it, right? And it's such a soft movie still, even with the high def. Like you could see some of the neon stuff was popping a lot,
Hmm.
but a lot of it was like, is this not just this is just a DVD? And it's like, no, no, this is HD, but that's just the nature of the. You could tell they were scraping by, kind of. To
I'm really hoping for a 2K restore
yeah,
Blu-ray. I'm really hoping for one. I think it deserves it. Like an Arrow.
you
I'd
would
love
think
I'd
that
love
would
to
be a
see Arrow pick
natural.
it up, yeah, and do a really good
Mhm.
restore right from the negative.
And it's like a genuine indie picture for its time, right? That thing was not financed by a studio. I think somebody picked it up for distribution. You think I'd do some research on this stuff, but from what I remember, I don't remember like an opening logo where it was like, "Oh, this is Paramount" or something.
I can't remember who the opener was. I know Eberhardt writes and directs. Um,
But yeah, it had that scrappy feel to it.
yeah, yeah, it really did. Oh, Atlantic.
Atlantic, so it's I
Yeah,
think they're Canadian, right?
yeah,
Not sure.
Atlantic Releasing Company. Yeah, Atlantic 9000.
Yeah, they
So
only put out
that's.
a handful of movies from what I can remember. I think I could be wrong, but I think Cherry 2000 is theirs.
I think
And
you're.
I'm,
I bet you you're right.
and I'm pretty sure the Garbage Pail Kid movie is theirs also. And then I think they became Alliance Atlantis, which is the Canadian distributor for, I can't remember the. I knew all this stuff at one time back in the 20-year ago DVD era.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
Now
yeah,
some of
yeah.
the knowledge has splintered over the time.
So just cheating. A quick Wikipedia search here gives me quite a few films, and they stopped in '86.
Ah.
Um, but looking through it here, let's see. I don't really see a lot that I recognize right off the bat. Valley Girl '83. Okay, there. That's where it starts to get. Waltz Across Texas '82.
Hmm.
Okay. Talk to Me '84. Yeah. Alphabet City '84. Vamping '84. 1984 '84. City Limits.
Who's
City
responsible?
Limits.
Wow. So they did 1984, Roger Deakins' first movie as DP, and then City Limits.
And then City Limits.
Yeah, I was just talking about hub movies like Kevin Bacon. City Limits is one of those movies you can tie almost everybody back to within 7 degrees. Easy. Oh, we'll get
uh,
into that one much later.
right on. He-Man and She-Ra, The Secret of the Sword, Teen Wolf, um,
Wow. The He-Man
Star.
She-Ra movie, when cartoon movies from TV shows based on toys would actually go to the theaters.
Yeah, that's about it though, man. The Fringe Dwellers, The Men's Club, Nomads, Nutcracker, the motion picture,
Oh my.
Stephen King's World of Horror, and then Stooge Mania, and then they were out.
Ooh, I remember Stooge Mania. It's basically, if I recall correctly, a bunch of Three Stooges clips together with people who are like obsessed with the Stooges or something. That's probably
Uh,
a pretty hard to get a hold of movie unless
oh no,
it's
here we go.
Stooge.
Here we go. Here they did. No, my apologies. They got a little bit more up to 1989. So,
Huh.
Steel Justice, Summer Heat, Richfield Kids movie, Teen Wolf 2,
Wow.
Cop with James Woods,
Wow.
Pound
I remember
Puppies.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, World Apart, Summer Story, Patty Hearst, just a few other things in there out the door. Soldier's
Summer
Tale is the
Story?
last thing. Yeah, a Summer Story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
A Summer Story from the mid 90s?
1988.
88.
Yeah,
Oh.
I don't recognize it. It's Piers Haggard, John Galsby's 1916 short story, The Apple Tree.
Oh, okay. I thought for a
Uh,
second it was one of those Christmas story sequels.
no, 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 no.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's it. Interesting. Very
Yeah.
interesting. See,
Oh,
the things you'll
Peter
learn on this
Rabbit.
podcast, folks, the
I'm
things you'll
telling you.
find out. That's what you'll get here. Us basically doing a deep dive and tying a bunch of weird stuff together and saying, "Oh, look, it
Yep.
means nothing, but there it is."
2 movies every week, random dissection. We'll see where it goes.
I think what I loved about Night of the Comet most was, as a kid, the idea that all the adults are gone, and well, what are you going to do? You go shopping, you go to the video arcade. It's probably one of the reasons why I like Dawn of the Dead so much.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, what a brilliant idea! If all the zombies are gone, go to the mall. It's it's all there. You got a food court, you got clothes, you got different stuff you need, right?
Hmm.
Depending on what mall it is.
Watching it now, it seemed so much bleaker, having forgotten most of the plot. And then when any of the dramatic moments happen where people start to realize just exactly what went down and they start to freak out, it's like, oh yeah. And then they go, okay, I'm acting like nothing's happening again. Let's go shopping because I'm in shock, kind of.
Yes,
And
yeah.
then I'm
You know
like,
what? That's a
wow,
good
they
call.
fucking killed her. Oh my God, that's so bleak. I'm like, I guess that is what happened. Like, I forgot, she's in the trunk and shit. But
Yeah,
yeah, and then it's like, oh no, we gotta have our '80s ending where it's like, this was just an excuse to wrap it all up. You got to go out with a bow here. But it was just like, damn, that was getting kind of dark there for a minute, like almost '70s filmmaking. Both of these movies still kind of have that almost '70s ish more than they have the '90s touch to
well,
them. I feel.
I feel like they're both unique.
Yeah,
I don't
there's
see
nothing
another
else like
movie
them.
like The Last Starfighter. Right? Ready Player One is kind of like a
Oh yeah.
2.0. Well, it's about a kid who uses a video game to sort of.
Oh, I guess that's why you're saying Tron is not
Yeah,
only
Tron.
visual effects but similar in that respect.
Yeah, Tron's kind of like that, but there aren't a lot of movies
I
like The Last Starfighter. Night of the Comet, yeah, there are movies like it, but it does a thing. It does it in its own way, in its own thing, where it's
Do
very singular.
you
It's
remember a movie called Nightmares from
mm,
'83? It was an anthology story. It's trying to be like these rip-off creep shows, I guess. And one of them was a story about Emilio Estevez, who was obsessed with playing a video game, and then he breaks into the mall to play the game to get
yes,
to that super level. That was another weird one. And of course,
yes, I do remember that.
yeah,
Holy crap! I haven't seen that. Now I got to find that.
you
We'll
made
have to
me think
find that.
about that one. Yeah, that was like the most memorable story in that movie I recall.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever
Well,
been to that level, and he's like, I'm gonna get to it.
yeah, brings to mind one of the short stories that William Gibson
And
wrote
so
about
that's just
the
slightly
planes.
before Last Starfighter. And then there's War Games, but I guess you could say it's in the genre kind of, but not really.
I mean, it's
Sort
yeah, I guess it's kind of computers and teenagers and that type of thing. Yeah,
of. Computers and teenagers. This shit.
computers and teenagers. Now look where we are.
Stop with all the downloading.
See what y'all did, you idiots. So yeah, so maybe we should also do the plot of Night of the Comet.
Oh, Night of the Comet.
Yeah, you do that one since it was
Okay.
your movie.
I like that it was fairly simple story, right? It doesn't waste any time getting going. It's a Christmas movie. I want to say that first off. Everybody goes off on Die Hard being Christmas, and it is. Die Hard set on Christmas. That's fine. There's trees and everything. But guess what? This movie has a guy in Santa suit. It's got Christmas trees, multiple references to Christmas. I think there's a reference to Christmas in Last Starfighter also, if I recall. Somebody says Christmas at one point. Uh, just
Lethal Weapon is a Christmas movie.
finding unrelated things, but yes, it is a Christmas film, so you can pop it on this December 25th for a little bit of a change of pace. You don't have to watch the Charlie Brown thing for the millionth time. So the movie starts off, and there's going to be this comet that hasn't been around for so long, nobody has any record of it or something, right?
Like a Halley's Comet,
Yeah.
yeah, like a Halley's Comet. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so it is kind of a play off of that because that's true. We can add some context here. Around 1986, right? That's when Halley's Comet was coming back around, and it was kind of a big deal in the news, right?
Yeah, I don't remember if that's the exact.
So maybe this movie is a reflection on
It's
that
probably,
event.
yeah.
You know, we're gonna make a movie.
No, you nailed it. 1986. It comes back in 2061. So yeah, you nailed it.
So I remember that vividly. I never got to see the damn thing because apparently it was too far out or some shit from where we were at. But I remember being at age 12 and starting to get really into uh, astronomy and stuff a bit, and being obsessed with that one. But yeah, that's right. Now I think about it again, it's like we're gonna watch the comets, a big fucking party and shit.
Yeah, and Night of the Comet comes out in '84, so it's just a couple years before. So yeah, they're capitalizing on that for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. Huh. At the time, I'm sure I probably realized that, but all these years later, that's what happens. The old movies, the movies still exist, but all the context. If you don't know the news stories and stuff,
well, that's what we said. That's what we said. It's a slice of time. Yeah. You know, that's what
very
they said.
Bizarre.
Art reflects the life around it. That's what's going on. That's how it is. It gets itself painted into the very fabric of
it. The comet goes past Earth and basically he cremates.
Well, everybody's partying, right? Yeah. Everybody's like, "Cool, it's a comet. Let's have a comet party. This is going to be awesome."
And they just turn into a little pile of red ash, and the clothes are still there and everything, and you're just gone. But they have a discussion about Superman earlier in the movie. A couple of the characters about like he can see through steel, which is this projection booth place that we're sealed in, but he can't see through lead. That's the thing you're thinking. But it turns out in this movie, the powers of the comet can't go through steel, right? If you're perfectly encased in steel. So that's why they wake up, the two people in the projection booth, one of which gets dispatched by one of these zombies pretty quickly. These zombies are like the people who got kind of exposed, so they're slowly disintegrating, I'm guessing. So what happens from there? She leaves.
So Sam is the main character, and she sleeps with her boyfriend basically and her boyfriend's a projectionist in the movie theater. That's the steel box.
Yeah, rather than go out and watch the comic.
Rather than go out and watch the comic because she thinks it's stupid. And her sister doesn't like her stepmother and gets mad at her stepmother at the comet party, and then she goes and sleeps. She goes and sleeps in the steel shed in the back, and that's why she's safe. Which I always, even as a kid, I was like, steel shed, those are normally aluminum. Yeah. But okay, we'll let it slide. We'll let it slide. So she leaves with him, and he gets fucking dispatched pretty quickly by the zombies, and she leaves and goes home. And as she's driving, she's starting to realize that everything's like, something's weird and something's wrong, and she pulls up.
Yeah, and then sister's acting like everything's fine. Yeah. And she's like, snap out of it, or whatever.
Yeah, and like everybody at the party is like dead. They're just clothes and piles of red sand. And she's like, they all went home. What? Big. I saw her making out with this dude, and Dad's gonna be so mad. And it's like, Dad's dead. They're all dead.
This is tough. She's pouring out the shoe.
And... Yeah, she's like, she's like, it's Saturday morning. Where are all the goddamn kids? Yeah.
Right, and that's kind of like the realization. And so they go off. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to drive to the radio station because there's voices on the air.
So they hear so they hear the radios going, and they're like, there we go. And they drive to the radio station, and what happens? They find out it's
just a tape. It's like the classic Star Trek trope where it was just a computer controlling the civilization the whole time. Yeah. So yeah, it's just a.
But that's where they meet Robert Beltran.
Who is Hector.
And
I'm like, wow, she's mildly got a little
bit of racism going on there.
A little bit there.
That's that casual '80s racism that would just kind of fly out. But yeah, so he survived because he slept in the cab of his semi. He's a semi truck driver, and he slept in the back.
Oh yeah, so that means a lot of truckers are probably alive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is hey, there you go. Thank God we're saved. And so they all decide. I can't remember.
He decides he has to go to San Diego suddenly? Is that what happens?
Right. Yeah, because he's got family down there and he wants to check on them, right? Yeah, because I remember they split up. and then that's when they decide to go shopping.
Oh yeah, because what else are you gonna do?
Yeah, you're gonna go shopping. They go to
Mhm.
the mall and they're trying stuff on, and
And that's where all the people who are hiding out in that mall, a la Dawn of the Dead, or
they're all zombified
yeah,
or
they're all
half
fucked up. Yeah,
zombified. Yeah,
so they come in and try to off them, and that's when. Well, we didn't even mention that at some point the movie cuts to these fucking team of scientists. I feel like it's
right,
Repo Man almost, where it's like, what is going on? We're suddenly over here, and they're talking about like basically what are they tried to do. Thought they were sealed off, but they weren't. That's why they're slowly getting sick
right.
and shit because somebody made a dumb mistake and left the fucking grates on so the air could get in. And I
Mm-hmm.
guess they're trying to make a serum from the healthy
Right.
blood of survivors so
Yeah,
they
and
can then breathe.
they've got two kids that they're testing basically and
Oh
using.
yeah, these kids that come out of nowhere.
Yeah, these two little kids. It's a little boy and a little girl that
Mm-hmm.
I guess they're drawing their blood and testing them, but they're trying to get other subjects, and
Mm-hmm.
that's when they show up at this mall, and I guess they've been tracking or
Oh
found them
yeah, that's right.
somehow.
Yeah,
Um,
they show up. Let's
that's
bright part.
because
Mm-hmm.
wait, but that and there's a big plot kick there. That's because the younger sister, Kelly Maroney, played by Kelly Maroney, while she's at the radio station, she gets on the radio
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
and she starts talking and telling people
Thank
about
you.
it and all that stuff. And so, yeah, then they go to the mall, meet the zombies, get saved, and
So I
then
guess that it
they
is a
get
little more natural that way then, right? Because she got on there and then they
right,
heard. That's why
right.
we weren't
She
supposed
alerted
to know
everybody to where they, yeah,
that.
exactly.
Okay. And then they show up at the nick of time and kill the zombie fight people at the mall that are trying to attack them as they were doing their shopping spree, and their submachine gun thing locks up because Daddy would have got us Uzis, or
Daddy
whatever
would have got
it
his
was.
Uzis. Yeah, yeah.
That just reeks of the '80s right there. Give me
Yeah,
Rambo
all of that.
flashbacks,
That was so good. It was a perfect Valley Girl moment.
And so then it's like they're going to take them back to the compound because they need,
Right, right,
But the movie gives us that little twist where we think one thing is happening, but in reality, she's not euthanizing, right?
right,
I mean, if
right.
you're listening to this, hopefully you have seen the movie already. It's probably a good idea for the show to have watched the movies ahead of time. But if you don't care about spoilers, it's too late already by now. But so
True.
you think that because Kelly Maroney's character has that rash that she talks about, she gets when she's anxious, that it's like, oh,
Right.
you're done for.
Yeah,
So
you're a zombie.
I'm just going to save you from, disintegrating or whatever, and I'm going to shoot you with this stuff, and then but it turns out she was keeping her from being harvested for her healthy blood,
Right, 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 right.
which leads to the great breakout and everybody,
Right. And then Hector shows back up all of a
yeah,
sudden.
perfect
Yeah.
timing. He
He
shows
comes
up
back
in
from
the
San
flash.
Diego with perfect timing and shows back up.
Well, he gets the book from Mary Warrenov's character that explains everything because her memory is gone at that point, right? From
Right, right,
disintegrating.
right. Yes, yes. And then and then what? They do a breakout. There's a big shootout with all the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the zombies, basically, and
Yeah,
then a happy ending,
yeah.
basically.
They
The end of the
blow
movie
themselves
is
up in the car, the zombies, and
yeah, yep. And then Beltran and Catherine Mary Stewart are obviously going to get together at the end,
it
and
almost looked like some kind of wedding had happened almost.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
a,
Well, it's like they immediately assume like a family role, right? Where she's like,
mm-hmm.
"I'm going to be the mom to these two kids, and
Mm-hmm.
you're the husband, Hector."
Right.
You know,
And don't cross the street because we are civilization now. And of course she
that's
does.
right.
And in this other car, just the perfect timing. But
Yeah,
here's
which gives Kelly Maroney's character the happy ending because of
yes.
course it's a brainless, good looking Ken,
Mhm.
Ken doll that she can ride around with.
So let's go into the rules of Night of the Comet a little bit. I don't have a whole lot to mention, but at the end, he's throwing the machine guns into the trash can, right? And doesn't somebody say there's still a few zombies around?
Yeah, I think so.
Now, I was under the impression that they had all disintegrated by now because they were just going to break down, but they don't
Mm.
really make it perfectly clear because I figured once everything washed away that it's not like it's Walking Dead and they're going to occasionally run into somebody who's still half disintegrated after all this time. I guess I'm thinking into it a little bit much there, but I thought
Yeah.
that was Because I'm thinking, oh yeah, all the zombies are disintegrated, and they said there's still some zombies around, and I'm like, are they hiding in the steel fucking walls? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's possible.
But I'm glad they never made a sequel to that one because
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the few movies that was left alone. The nice thing of it kind of falling through the cracks in a way and becoming the cult movie is nobody did a reboot yet, and nobody's done a sequel to it. So
It's also one of the early the girl power movies.
yes,
Like, I mean, the lead character is a woman who kicks a lot of ass in that film. She saves her sister. She pushes the main male character around. She's
oh
not
yeah,
taking any shit off that guy at
Hector is
all.
pushed to the sub
Yeah, and
category in
you know,
that one.
she's a very strong female lead, and which is a very different character than she plays in Last Starfighter, where she's kind
Mm-hmm.
of a passive kind of girlfriend, where she's very like, "What's going to happen,
Yeah,
Alex? I
it's
mean, I
just
got to
a
stay
regular
here with
role.
Grandma." And she's very much a I don't know if it's a Marianne or a Ginger or whatever the hell, but she seems much more trope like in that movie. But in Night of the Comet, she really gets to play the lead, and she plays it really well. She comes off very not tough, but I want to say tough, but I worry tough implies some sort of negative connotation to her. She comes off
No, just in charge of the
confident,
situation.
strong, and in charge of in knowing what she wants,
And
and that's refreshing. That's early for female
right.
characters like
It's a
that.
year before Sigourney Weaver and Aliens,
Mm-hmm.
which would be kind of that defining tough,
Yeah,
strong-willed
yeah. Well, then
female
you get
character that
yeah,
you
and then later on you get Linda Hamilton in Terminator 2.
oh yeah, and then they step it. See, it's Cameron stepping it up
Yeah,
again.
stepping it up again. Yeah,
Crazy.
but I mean, I felt like that's one of the I think not to parallel into a different movie, but you know, my other '80s girlfriend Deborah Foreman, she did My Chauffeur,
Mm-hmm.
and My Chauffeur, she's not the strong character, but she's very much the lead, and she's very much driving the picture,
Oh yeah,
and
it is
in a way
similar in
that's
that
very
respect.
different. Yeah, she's like a Bill Murray or something.
Yeah, she's the one driving everything. All the other
Yeah,
characters have to
work off of her, and
basically do
that's how
her
I and
bidding.
that's kind of how I felt Night of the
Mhm.
Comet was a lot of the time. That yeah, there's that wacky sub story about the scientists and stuff, but even that still comes to evolve around Sam and that character.
It does make more sense when you reminded me that, oh yeah, she gets on the radio, and because it does seem like they come out of nowhere, but they're supposed to come out of nowhere. So
Right.
that's why it's important to, and obviously I've seen these movies so many times, but if you're going to write a review or talk about a film after you've seen it, wait about 24 hours after you've seen the movie and then let it really sit in your head, because the impression you get when you leave the theater or turn the TV off might be a little different than once it's marinated in your head, right?
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I like to make notes as I'm watching the movie, and then I just walk away from it for a while and kind of let it sit.
Mm-hmm.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a good example of that. The first time I watched that, I thought, man, that's just a mess. That movie is a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess of great scenes and terrible scenes. And then about 48 hours later, I was like,
You couldn't stop thinking.
I
Yeah.
think I kind of like that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have
It
to
took
watch that
that long for
again.
you to.
And I watched it again, and I started to see a lot of brilliance in it. Probably, me, I'm not a huge DiCaprio fan. It's just not, he's just not. He just doesn't do it for me much. But he was fantastic in that, where he threatens to kill himself.
Mm-hmm.
He looks at himself and threatens to kill himself in the mirror. It's friggin' anyway. Just but and anyway, I started to realize that movie's probably from in my opinion, is probably one of his best movies. Pulp Fiction is his best movie, obviously, but that's top three for him.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really a fantastic movie, and it's like you said. I think if I just rushed out to review it based off my first glance, my first reaction, I'd have been, "What a mess! Tarantino's ninth movie is
Well,
it
most
isn't. It's just it's like La La Land. It kind of has to sit with you,
well, yeah, most of your popcorn movies are designed to hit you right away, and then it's actually kind of a bold move for anybody or any studio to make a movie that it demands you take the time to sit through it a couple times and really think about it.
Yeah,
But you see,
yeah,
that's what we used to do back when the two movies today we're talking about were new. You'd kind of live with the movie, like you'd live with an album or something back then. And so you'd rent a movie, you'd rent it for what, 2 or 3 days. You would
Yep.
watch the thing
Probably a couple
5 or 6
times. Yeah.
times. Even if you
Yeah.
didn't
Easily.
like it, you'd watch it over and over again because there was 3 channels.
Yep.
And this is just what there was. The movie wasn't on cable yet, and so
Yeah.
you start to get very familiar with the movie. So back then,
Yeah.
that kind of
Well,
logic didn't seem weird, and now it's almost
no.
out of place where everything wants to hit you immediately.
Yeah, it has to. Yeah, and that's the windows, right? You had those windows to look through, right? Where you had, okay, well, I saw it in the theater. Here it comes 3 months later on VHS. I'm gonna watch it again. Oh, it was good. I'm gonna watch it again. Oh, it's good. I'll watch it again. And then 3 months later, it's on cable, and you watch it 10 more times
Mm-hmm.
because there's nothing
Oh
else
yeah.
on, and you're sitting there looking for something to watch, and you've seen everything else 50 times, but you haven't only seen this one 10 times. So you'll watch this one. You know,
Mm-hmm. Cables where we would just watch the same movies
over,
over and over and
over.
over
Well,
again.
and cable saved so many movies. I mean, there are so many
Mm-hmm.
just small movies that found their home on cable,
Mm-hmm.
found their audience out there. And you still got that now. I mean, with the amount of streaming that's out, I mean, hell, we found our home. It's Tubi.
Yeah.
And our next 2 films we're hoping to get up there as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's great. I love Tubi. I think it's amazing. I think free ad supported television is the way to go. I'll sit through a couple ads if I can watch,
Mm-hmm.
John Wick or some independent film that I've been told about or something like that. Sure.
Yeah, it's no different than watching something on TV
Hmm.
back when or even now.
So, what would you score Night of Comet out of 5 stars?
I'd probably say it's about a 4, just the same as the other film, The Last Starfighter, because I mean, both of them are not without their, you know,
I think
flaws
there's
or
some.
shortcomings, but they have such moments that
Yeah, they're sort of 80s iconic. They're very look.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the stories are derivative, but they're very singular in their execution. You know what I mean? It's like I don't see another movie like Night of the Comet. I
Mm-hmm.
don't see another movie doing that, and I don't see another movie doing what Last Starfighter did. Not in
Yeah.
that way, other than maybe, like I said, Ready Player One or something. And even that
Mm-hmm.
story's a bit different.
Yeah, I really liked Last Starfighter as a kid, so my rating probably would have been higher if you'd asked me when I was like 12 or whatever.
Yeah,
Same
yeah,
for same for Night of the Comet as well. And so now it's like, well, if I'm looking through the 2023 and then applying any kind of filmmaker logic to it, you go, well, there's this and this and this, but I still admire the movies a lot, and I'll watch both of them again easily.
oh,
I'm
easily.
telling you,
Yeah.
that's a good Christmas weird one. Have you ever watched Night of the Comet on Christmas?
No, but I'm going to.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of perfect.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. I think that's brilliant. I think I definitely will do that.
I mean,
That's brilliant.
he shows up in the Santa suit, and don't they like fight
That's
around a Christmas tree and stuff? So there's
yes.
plenty of elements
God,
in there.
wow. How did I not catch all that when I watched it?
I'm just like,
That's
this is a
hilarious.
freaking Christmas movie, and it's all red and
Freaking
everything,
Christmas.
like Christmas colors.
Well, so Gremlins Christmas?
Gremlins is Christmas, oh yeah. It's all set in the snow, and Phoebe Cates tells that story about her dad getting stuck in the chimney dressed as
So it's
Santa Claus.
yeah, yeah. So there you go, folks. You can watch Gremlins, Night of the Comet, Lethal
Hmm.
Weapon, Die Hard, Christmas Story,
Yeah.
and of course, uh, Christmas Vacation.
Hmm. Yeah, you don't
I
have
want
to
to miss
watch
that.
It's a Wonderful Life again, unless you want
No,
to.
yeah, no, don't do that. What's always surprised me is how much of a this may or may not make the podcast, but what's always surprised me about holiday movies is how strong of a movie My Cousin Vinny is for holidays.
Hmm.
Every holiday when I go to visit my family, it's on cable, and it's one of the movies that you can put on. Nobody complains about.
Oh, okay.
Nobody complains about it. Everybody finds it funny. Everybody likes it. It's just I'm like, wow, really? A Joe Pesci movie? Okay, I guess.
Hmm.
It's sure.
Oh, they hit
Anyway,
that perfect
yeah, they
spot.
hit that perfect sweet spot. Yep. Well, what do we pick? Okay, so I guess this is the last part where we surprise each other with what we're picking for next
Oh
week.
yeah, yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, I haven't considered. I think this is good. We'll have to spring it on each other.
I know. I had ideas, but I wasn't sure with what I wanted to go with just yet. I'll pick
Yeah,
something
yeah,
here.
me too. Me too.
Yeah, see, I figured we'd hit, we're almost at 55 minutes there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
a few
that's
little
about right.
trims, and yeah.
Yeah, a few little trims here and there. I think. Yeah, okay. I'm going to pick a brand new one this time for you. Let me know when you're ready.
Oh, go for it, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you. This will be fun. Dungeons and Dragons: Honors Among Thieves.
Oh,
Honor Among Thieves.
nice. See, you're already.
You haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I think you'll enjoy it, and it's fun.
Yeah, you're already giving me an excuse to actually sit down and watch movies I've been meaning to watch. It's another nice side effect of this film.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought, I'm interested to see what you think about it. We played Dungeons and Dragons a lot as kids, so I think you'll really dig it, and it's an easy one to find. So,
yeah.
What you got for me?
Yes, it is. Okay. So, wow, I'm going to have to consider that for a second here.
The anticipation is killing
me. I don't want to make anything too bizarre because I want them to. They don't necessarily have to compliment each other, but if
they don't have to compliment each other at all.
But if I have something that kind of goes along that.
I mean, we did have a very nice crossover of Catherine Mary Stewart this episode, which is pretty cool.
Okay, I've discovered what my pick is going to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it?
My pick for the next episode is 1993's Judgment Night.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen that since I worked the theater and it came out.
Will it hold up? I don't know, but it's also people on a weird adventure. Which I'm guessing
that is that's kind of cool. It's two groups on a weird adventure. Maybe that's
a good one. Yeah.
Maybe that's how we'll do the summary description. Mm-hmm. This week's theme is this week's theme is obviously Catherine Mary Stewart. Next week's theme is groups on an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Nice.
Well, I love it. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed us talking about these movies. We highly recommend both of them. Every now and then you'll probably hear us where we say, this is a terrible movie, stay as far away from it as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Keep tuning in.
Yes.
Yeah, keep tuning in. Eventually one of us is going to accidentally inflict something terrible on the other.
Eventually, it's inevitable. Yeah.
Yeah, you're listening to two guys who are very passionate about what they like about movies and what they don't. So it should be pretty interesting. All right, buddy. We'll see you next week.
Cool.
Later, man.